Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth cup of coffee. Today, I want to speak about fixes and rescuer syndrome and trying to fix other people and change other people. And this is because this has been something that I've had to work on in my life, but I see so much of this happening and so much suffering being born out of trying to control situations or people, trying to change them. Um, there's a certain amount of growth that you do alongside every relationship that you have, whether that's friendships, romantic relationships, parental relationships, like everything. There's a certain amount of growth that both of you go through. And of course, that means both of you are never the same, or you're always changing and evolving during the course of that relationship. However, I'm not talking about that kind of change. I'm talking about a change where this person fundamentally is one set way and has these, let's call them, what do I call this? This person has their own wounds. Okay, they have their own way of being, they have their own habits, they have their own character. It's not just personality, it's not just a habit that they can easily shift out of. It's like fundamentally rooted within them. And it's their core, it's literally their core at that moment. I, for one, don't believe, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree, that you should actually try to change anybody. And I think a lot of pain and suffering comes from us trying to change people, trying to change each other so that they can better fit and make us happy. Um, who are you changing people for? This is the question I asked myself the other day. When you try to change someone, because let's say they're making you unhappy in a relationship, for example, who are you changing them for? You're asking them to change for you, right? And there's an arrogance in that as well. It's like, of course, you might be asking them to change for the relationship so the relationship can work. And if they're, I don't know, if they don't want to, like if you have to really beg them and chase them and ask them again and again and again to change for you or for the relationship, and they just don't want to, like, and you can't accept that they don't want to, so you keep trying to change them, you're just going to open yourself up for having your expectations crushed again and again. And you're going to be really disappointed because change is so hard. Can you think of the last time that you tried to change yourself? And how difficult it is? Like, I think about my own journey in therapy and me trying to change some of my habits. Like, if you really look at a person, behavior is the top layer, right? It's the top layer. It is just scratching the surface. Like, that is not real deep rooted change. That's just behavior. But in order to change behavior, there's another layer and another layer and then another layer and another layer. Like, there's so many layers to your personality. There's beneath behavior, there's personality. Beneath personality, there's character and values. Beneath that, there's identity. And within that, there's nervous system resets or nervous system restructuring. Like, do you know the type of deep rooted work you would have to do to actually fundamentally change yourself? Because if you change yourself at the bottom here, at the level of identity, everything will catapult upwards and you will change your behavior. Naturally, your behavior will change. You'll become somebody slightly different. And you won't repeat those same patterns. Like, a lot of the times we're not just asking people to change a behavior. We are asking, like, if we think about what we're actually asking of someone that would require them to change like fundamental core parts of themselves, think about the question. Like, you are asking them to rewire their whole patterns, which come from the deepest layers of their character, of their core. That's not an easy thing to do, right? And then if we think about our motivation to wanting people to change if something isn't working out for you, like let's speak about romantic relationships for a second, or a friendship. It could be a friendship too. But like, if so many parts of that relationship or that friendship aren't working and there's so many pain points and there's just so many incompatibilities, but you can see the root to it working. You can see how you would fix it if all of these little parts changed and they worked on themselves and went and got therapy and worked on their wounds and started doing this stuff. You can see the blueprint. You can see the map of how these people would change and make it work with you, and then you would be happy, right? Because it's about you. Like, if you really think about it, yes, you would want that relationship to work, but you want it to work in a way that makes you happy and make you stay. Because when we ask someone to change, whether they're a good person or a bad person, let's just put that to the side for a minute. When we ask somebody to fundamentally change, we are not accepting them as they are, which, yeah, of course, we're not accepting them as they are. But because we've chosen not to accept them as they are, we want them to change to something that we would work better for us, right? And when I think about that, you chose this person as they were, right? You chose this person and you saw these things, or maybe you didn't notice these things. And there's nothing shameful about that, because we all make decisions based on our own patterns as well. But let's say you chose this person as they are. And then you realized that your choice isn't making you particularly happy, right? Because your choice, whatever you chose or chose to accept, doesn't make you particularly happy. So now you've started to feel discomfort in that relationship over time. And now you've realized, like, oh, damn it, like, now I'm attached, or now I've already made that choice, but now I'm uncomfortable because what I chose to accept at the time, because of whatever reasons, my own reasons, like it doesn't actually work, and it's really incompatible with me. And it's causing me a great deal of hurt, discomfort, and pain. So what's the easiest route? Well, I'm not just going to accept that person as they are, because I realize, like, I'm always going to have discomfort. I can't get out of that. And also, if I do accept them exactly as they are, I'm still not getting my needs met or what I want from that relationship. So what should I do? I will ask that person to change themselves. Is that the easiest thing for you to do? It might seem like the easiest thing for you to do, to ask that person to actually fundamentally change themselves. Why? And I really had to think about this. Why is that the easiest path of least resistance that we identify in situations like this? If you think about it, the easiest path should be reevaluate your own choices, right? Because you have access to yourself and you have choice and agency and autonomy when it comes to yourself. But when it comes to that other person, we don't have a right to ask them to fundamentally change themselves. We just don't have that right. There's a huge arrogance in thinking you have the right to ask somebody to fundamentally change themselves. Unless they want to. But let's say in the context that they don't really want to. They're not really trying, right? So you just don't accept that. You not accepting that is to me, it's like, it's rooted in your own avoidance of facing the situation that this person might not be that compatible with you. But you don't want to, so you don't want to face the pain of walking away from that relationship and respecting yourself that you can find something better, accepting that person as they are and respecting their autonomy and their agency and their choice that they just cannot change. Maybe they don't have the capacity to do that, right? So that's too hard. Reevaluating your choices somehow doesn't seem like a good option in your head, because that would actually include what? You fundamentally changing yourself, right? So that you don't make the same type of choice. How can we expect somebody to fundamentally change themselves for us when we're not willing to change ourselves for us? Do you see what I mean? And I started thinking about, because I've been in this position where I've expected people, wanted people to change. Not anymore, because I realize now it never actually works. It's never usually it doesn't have a good success rate. It doesn't have a good success ratio. You hurt yourself, you hurt the other person. It's just not nice. It's not kind. It's not kind. The kindest thing is to keep things within your field of control and respect other people's autonomy and agency. I understand why we might want people to change sometimes. Obviously, this is also context dependent. So I'm not brushing everything, painting everything with the same brush. But really, I would implore you to think about one thing. If you cannot change enough or agree to change, and you find it so uncomfortable to change, so you don't make those choices and repeat those patterns, if you find that harder than asking somebody else to change their behavior, which is usually linked to deeper patterns within themselves, that would mean that they have to go and excavate so many of their wounds and so many things that they've built up over their lives in order to change and become behaviorally appropriate to you, then you have no right to really ask them. Because if you can't change yourself, you can't do that uncomfortable thing yourself, we have no right to ask everyone else to change that, right? For me, I almost think that is hypocritical in essence. It is, because you're not willing to do it, so why should someone else do it? And just because you're willing to do it, if you are willing to do that, it still doesn't mean that person owes you to also change, right? If you are willing to do and you're willing to grow and everything, maybe if you are willing to do that and you genuinely grow, you might outgrow that specific relationship. You might just naturally outgrow it, and then you drift apart anyway. But just because you also grow or you change yourself and you want to make a significant improvement to your behaviors, to your life, whatever, you want to change in some significant way. You want to change your patterns. You want to heal your wounds. You want to become better at relationships. You want to become more ambitious, whatever that is. That does not mean, that doesn't give you the right. I don't think it gives us the right to tell somebody else that they need to do that too. And I don't think we can take it personally if that person decides they don't want that. It's sad. It might mean you need to part ways. But that's an eventuality you might have to accept. Because we don't have, again, everybody has their own agency on autonomy and their right to freedom and to free thought and free will. We have no right to control that. So if they don't want to follow suit, there's nothing we can do. It's not right for you to ask. I don't think it's right for us to then ask that person. Well, you can ask them, but they have every right to say no. That's what I mean. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about change and this fixer syndrome or rescuer syndrome that so many people have. Like, I can see the blueprint of how you could improve your life, and why don't you do this for me because it would benefit me and our relationship, and this, and this would fix everything. No, because you're not like Bob or Barbara the Builder. No. You don't have the right to do that, And there's a huge arrogance in thinking you can fix someone. And I know it comes from this syndrome of having been made to bear too much responsibility when you were younger, or being put in the position where you did have to fix everything or make everything nice or make everything okay. But we can't do that. Not in 2026. We can't fix people. It's not kindness. It's coming from your own pattern. It's not kindness to the other person. And fundamentally, it's like I said, it's really, really hard to change. Not everybody wants to do it. And you thinking you can do it in another person when it's so hard to do within yourself. Imagine how hard it is to do within you. That's not realistic. It's not realistic. It's not kind. Sometimes the kindest thing is walking away. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for somebody is placing yourself on your own path and not in theirs anymore. And you construct your life with your own power and your free will, your autonomy and your authority, how you would like it. Stop outsourcing that and stop asking everyone else to fulfill whatever you might want in that relationship for you when they clearly don't want to. The kindest thing sometimes is to accept that person, because while you're trying to so desperately change them, imagine somebody is telling you change. What is the message that you're going to get from that as well? It's going to be, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. there's clearly something wrong with me because this person's always asking me to change. You might also be a really resistant type and not give a shit and think, I don't care, I'm not going to change because I don't want to, whatever. But like, imagine that. That is not a healthy, nice dynamic for that person. All that person is getting is feedback that they're not good enough. And instead, they might be better suited somewhere else. Or if they had some agency of their own choice to change, and you might be suited somewhere else. If there's things from that relationship you're not getting, friendship, romantic, whatever it is, that you're not getting, and that person needs to change for you to get them, that is selfish. And you need to go and find those from somewhere else if that person doesn't want to give those to you or can't. Sometimes they don't have the capacity to change because they just don't at that point in their lives. And that's okay. I think we've got to ask more about, where is that need for wanting to control or change somebody else coming from? It's coming from our own needs. And if that person can't give that to you, then the kindest thing would be to go and find it elsewhere, because the world is abundant and you can. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can create those things for yourself. You can go find it with someone who would willingly give that to you. Or pick someone who naturally has things so that they don't have to change to make you happy so much. We all change a little bit and grow, but just pick the path of least resistance sometimes. Let's pick something that's not hard mode all the time. Maybe pick someone who doesn't have such a huge gap of what you want and where they are. Pick someone who's closer to that. And then it's going to be a lot easier. You're going to have less frustration in your life. You're going to have less aggravation. You're going to have less, conflict. And that person's going to have less critique, the one that you kept asking to change. So, yeah, just wanted to speak a bit on change. Thanks for joining me for the 4th cup of coffee. It's been lovely speaking to you all, and see you next time.